you need a count?
No, sir. Well, that ain't good.
What's up, YouTube? JM Comics here with a new movie review based on The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. If you haven't seen this movie, it's on Netflix and it came out in 2018. And my opinions on this movie are not controversial, just contradictory. I don't know how I feel about this movie, but we'll see as I go along and explain different sections of this movie. Because it's not a normal movie, it's not one long plotline story. It's actually an anthology movie. If you don't know what that is, it's basically many separate stories strung together in one movie, but they're all unrelated to each other. So there are 6 separate anthology stories in this movie, and the common theme throughout is death, and usually the main character dies in these stories. So I'll go over them and tell you. So I'll summarize the story, tell you what it's about, what happened. Then I'll tell you the theme of the story, what the message is that's trying to give, because they're like folk tales. And at the end, I'll give you my opinion on each story. But before I get started, remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. And let's get right into it. The first story out of the 6 in this anthology is the one that this movie is named after, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. And here's how the story goes. It starts off with this guy named Buster Scruggs. He's a cowboy, and he talks to he's a narrator basically. He keeps narrating to the screen and singing songs. He's like Bugs Bunny, like Looney Tunes, yeah. So he keeps narrating and talking to the camera and singing songs until he goes into this bar, and a bunch of guys threaten him, and you know what he does? He shoots him in the face. He shoots all of those guys in the face mercilessly, splattering blood all over the walls. And then the bartender, who's like completely innocent in this situation, he shoots him anyway. Because Buster Scruggs' idea about life is that everyone's corrupt, so why spare them? So then Buster Scruggs, on his horse, playing the banjo, sings a song or whatever, or he's been singing a song. But then he walks into this saloon in a nearby town to play cards, and there's this guy named Curly Joe. And what's kind of cool about him is he's played by Clancy Brown. If you don't know who that is, he plays Mr. Krabs in SpongeBob. So that's a cool factoid. And he's on The Flash. Yeah, okay. So Clancy Brown plays this cowboy named Curly Joe, and Buster goes to play poker with these guys. But Curly Joe tells him, well, you gotta use the cards from some guy who just left. Buster Scruggs doesn't like this because he's gonna be cheated on the game, so he shoots. Or no. Oh, this is kind of funny. So Curly Joe has a gun pointing at Buster. So Buster keeps knocking the plank on the table where it hits the gun in Clancy Brown or whatever his name is, Curly Joe's hand, shooting Curly Joe in the face multiple times. So he basically kills him. And then he starts singing a song about the man he just killed. This is kind of brutal, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. It is what it is.
He starts singing a song about the guy he just shot in the face multiple times. Or made shoot himself in the face multiple times. And then Curly Joe's brother comes into the bar and challenges Buster. So they go outside the bar and they have a duel, like a western duel. And the guy Buster Scruggs asks Curly Joe's brother, do you want me to give you a countdown? And he says no. So Buster immediately shoots his fingers off and then kills the man. So yeah, Buster is very unlikable. What a jerk, okay? What a murderer. No one likes him. And then, after, just killing this guy and feeling self-confident and gloated, this guy named the Kid, who's like a sheriff from another town, has been tracking Buster. And he comes and he's like, I challenge you to a duel. And he asks Buster. And Buster's like, oh, I got this. I'm overconfident. I'm amazing. I'm a sharpshooter. I've killed so many people. So, the guy, his name is the Kid. He asks Buster, do you want me to give you a countdown, paralleling what Buster just did? Buster says no, and the guy shoots Buster through the head. And, yeah. So then there's this weird musical sequence where the Kid's riding off, and Buster's angel's going to heaven, and they're both singing a song together. So, that's the Ballad of Buster Scruggs. And the theme of this section, it's a little bit weird because, I don't know. This section has multiple themes. It can be interpreted in multiple ways, but I think it's trying to say, don't be overconfident. Don't be cocky, okay? Don't think you're the best, okay? But I think it also has to do with human corruption. So, yeah. Because Buster said everyone's corrupt, and he himself ended up being corrupt as well. So, yeah, my opinion on this section is, a little bit wonky. I don't like this story that much. I think the musical sequences are fun and the songs are well made, but I don't feel like it fits in with the rest of the movie. I just don't want to hear a Western musical for a short. Like, I just don't like the music in this, okay? And it's really dark, so yeah. And Buster's unlikable as a main character, as a protagonist. So it is kind of relieving to see him killed off, but I still don't like him. So I'd say this is one of the worst stories. Did not set my bar that high for the rest of this thing. The next story is by far the shortest story, and it's called Near Algodones. It stars James Franco from the Spider-Man movies, who plays Harry Osborn. And he's this bank robber who goes in to this bank teller and he's like, I'm gonna rob you. And the bank teller keeps bragging about how many people he stopped from robbing his bank. Well, this is before he, like, threatens him. So the bank teller tells him how many people he stopped, and then this guy doesn't listen, James Franco's character. And he still says, I'm gonna rob your bank. So the gun teller, or the bank teller, goes down and grabs his shotgun and runs out the building. So then the cowboy grabs the money and I think he grabs the money. He grabs the money, goes back to his horse to escape. But then the guy comes running at him with the shotgun, wearing literal frying pans. Yeah, this is a dumb movie. But the guy is wearing frying pans, running with his shotgun towards the cowboy, shooting at him, and he ends up arresting him. So the cowboy gets sentenced to be hanged, and when he's about to get hanged, the people hanging him get ambushed by Native Americans, and they all die. So he basically survives a near hanging. And then this cow rustler comes and helps him off, like the noose he's stuck on, because those guys died, and he's just stuck on a noose. So this cow rustler comes and helps him, and they both ride off together until they both get arrested, and he gets hanged anyway. And it gave us a really, really iconic line in First Time.
First time.
So yeah, the theme of this story is pretty obvious. Basically, your fate is sealed, okay? Once you commit a crime, you are eventually going to get paid for your crime, okay? So, you get what you deserve. Which is also the theme of another story I'm going to get to soon. The third story in the Ballad of Buster Scruggs is Meal Ticket, and it stars Liam Neeson and some guy whose name I forgot, but he's famous, trust me. So yeah, Liam Neeson plays this impresario, which is like P.T. Barnum, sort of, like a guy who runs a show, but doesn't like actually do anything in the show. So he has this friend, presumably, possibly his son, who has all his limbs off, okay? He's like handicapped, he has no arms or legs, but he's a really good storyteller. So he basically displays him like a show where the guy tells stories talking about the Bible, the Gettysburg Address, and stuff like that. And at first, the show makes a lot of money. So the impresario, Liam Neeson's character, and the other guy, the amputee, they both get a lot of money to do whatever they want with, mostly to get food, because, you know, they need meals. That's why it's called Meal Ticket. But over time, the show starts to, you know, stop selling. People aren't as interested in it anymore, because they're more interested in a lower quality show about this chicken who can do math. Yeah, it's really weird, but the chicken can do math. So Liam Neeson's character goes to the chicken's handler, buys the chicken off of him, and now has it as a new show prop. I don't know what I'd say, like a new employee, I guess, whatever you want to call it. So when he has them, like that entertainer, like when he has the chicken as an entertainer and the other entertainer in his wagon, and he's driving through the, I'm assuming Oregon, I don't know, Midwestern Trail, he suddenly sees a river, and he goes down and tries to see how deep it is, finding out it's really deep. So you know what he does? He takes the amputee kid, or whatever, and he throws him into the river to drown. Wow. This story is like really dark. I think it's the darkest one of all of these, and it really hurt my soul. It's just so dark and evil and corrupt. I just can't believe it. And I think the theme of the story is, well, it's not a theme. It's just a general commentary on the show business, in that people change their minds about what is and isn't entertaining really fast. And once that happens, what used to be entertaining becomes irrelevant and tends to get fired if you're like an actor, or, you know, just not made anymore, like certain types of movies. So I guess it's just commentary on the show business, and it's really dark, and my opinion on it is that it's pretty bad. Like, I don't like this one. It hurt my soul, hurt my heart. It's so evil, so rude. I did not like Meal Ticket. The next story is called All Gold Canyon, and I think this is possibly my favorite. I'd say it's my second favorite, yeah. And it's about this prospector. It's really easy to summarize. This prospector who goes to the middle of this forest or whatever in the Midwest to search for gold in this valley. And he spends his whole year, presumably a year, searching for the gold until he finally finds it. And throughout this journey, he's becoming one of the nature, I guess. He respects nature, even though he harvests a lot of it, but he respects it. And he's shown to be a hardworking guy who has good morals. And he's really, really old, so he's worked hard his whole life. But he finally finds the gold after about a year of searching. And when he finds the gold, he's cheering, applauding, having so much, yeah, I did it, praise. But then he gets shot in the back by some young kid or some younger man who's been following him the entire time and waiting for him to find gold just to steal it from him. What this young man doesn't know is that the old man is not actually dead. He only shot right through him. So the old man gets up and then shoots the young kid in the head and leaves him to die in the hole while he takes the gold and sets off. And he says, "You got what you deserve." This story has a pretty obvious theme, but I think it's pretty profound. And the theme is, you get what you deserve, like what the guy said. If you work hard for something, even if people try to steal it or try to take what's yours, they may have success for a limited time, but in the end, the true hero will come out, or the true earner of such respect and possession comes out. So I really like this story because it's the only one where the main character doesn't die. Yeah, unless you count that young man as the main character, but he's not. So it's the only story where the main character survives, and I really liked it. The next story is The Gal Who Got Rattled, and it is definitely the longest story. I think it's 25 minutes, 30 minutes. It's really long, and I think it's my favorite. Yeah, and you'll see why. It's a lot to summarize, so I'll just give you the brief notes about it. A girl and her brother want to go to Oregon. I think it's Oregon. And they're going on the Oregon Trail, like that good old game. But on the trip there, the brother dies after a day of chloria, or how do you say that? Chlora, CHLO. I don't know. Okay, some disease. He dies, and the sister is left by herself. And she also has this pet dog, but it's irrelevant. So then the cowboy handler who's leading the entire wagon caravan, starts to impress onto her and try to help her with her financial troubles and dealing with her brother's loss. And in the end, he sort of starts liking her, and she sort of starts liking him back. So he has a proposition to her, because she has a debt, that if he marries her, he can stop the debt. But he's very kind about it. He's not manipulative. It's a really healthy relationship. He's like, if you don't want to marry me, that's fine. I'll still help you with the debt. And she ends up saying, yes, I want to marry you though. So that's really good. That's really sweet. This one made me have the most emotions, this story. But things don't go as planned, and this other guy who's a cowboy who leads the wagon trail, his name is Mr. Arthur. He is kind of upset that his friend is getting married to her because he's old and he has no other friends who help him on this trail, and he wants to be with him. But he's not upset about it to a great extent. So anyway, the girl goes off by herself in the middle of a prairie dog town, which is a bunch of prairie dog holes. And she gets ambushed by Indians. And so, what was I going with this? Yeah. So Mr. Arthur comes to help her. And he's like, you just stay still, I'll give you a gun. And if I end up dying, shoot yourself to put yourself out of the misery. So they don't, kill you and rape you and stuff. So Arthur takes down most of the Indians, but then one of them pretends to be dead, but really isn't, and runs towards him and knocks him in the back of the head with a hatchet. Arthur is apparently dead on the ground, but then, when the Indian comes to scalp his head off, which is a thing they did back then, Google it, he shoots the Indian in the face, revealing he was really alive, just playing dead, like the Indian just did. But when he goes back to Alice, the girl, he sees that she had shot herself in the head, mistakenly believing that he was dead. I am very lost and very confused on the theme of this story. But, I liked it. I'll give it that. And I can feel that there's some depth here. I just don't know what the theme is. I can deduct it. But it's clever irony that the girl ended up shooting herself for no reason. So, it's cool. My opinion, I told you already, it's my favorite of all these stories. It's the longest, it's the most developed, it has the most sweet moments and the most brutal moments. In a well-deserved way. So I really like this story. And apparently it's based on another story called The Girl Who Got Rattled. This one's called The Gal Who Got Rattled. Basically the same thing, but with less romance. So that's a cool factoid. The final story is by far the most strange and obscure one. It's called The Mortal Remains. And it's about these three different people. A trapper, who's a like from the higher mountain areas, so he's less civilized than these other guys. A woman, I don't know her name, but she's like really, really old, and she's rich, and her husband's a pastor, and some French man. Each of them has different opinion about life. The trapper thinks everyone is like ferrets, everyone is the same. People are no more different than animals are from each other. The woman believes that there are only two types of people on this planet, sinners and clean people. And the Frenchman believes people will change who they are depending on situations. So these guys are all sitting in like a, what's it called? A wagon of sorts, like a stagecoach, a carriage. Yeah, they're sitting in a carriage, and across from them are these other two people who are like, we harvest souls, we're bounty hunters, and they have a body that they brought as luggage. It's a really weird story, and the whole thing is them arguing about philosophy until they get to their final destination, this haunted-looking hotel, where the two guys, the two bounty hunters, take the body into the hotel, and the three other people just walk in, all scared and creeped out. That's where it ends. So I can only assume the theme of this story, and I think it's a clever assumption, a fair assumption, that those guys are all dead. Yeah. These are like, the two bounty hunters are like the Grim Reapers, and they're taking their bodies. That's the best I could deduce from this story. So I guess the theme about it is just death as a whole, and that no matter how you look at life, you will end up dying anyway. So that's what I got from it. And I think it's an okay story. I think it was a good idea to end on something like this because it's so like ambiguous. But it wasn't my favorite by any stretch. So yeah, it was better than Ballad of Buster Scruggs. I'll say that. So my thoughts on the movie as a whole were, I did not expect this to be an anthology. I heard it was an anthology, but I was like expecting longer stories than like Near Algodones is literally like 5 or 6 minutes. It's short. And James Franco, a big name actor, was leading that short, and it was only 6 minutes long. So that really bothered me. They got so many big name actors for such small roles, and they could have given it to like lesser actors, but they did do that with some characters. So I won't be too pressing about that. And here's the thing: if it's on Netflix anyway, and you're not gonna make that much money off of it, why not just make it a show? There are already 6 different episodes you can make. Just make 6 episodes in an anthology series, like this movie called Love and Robots. This TV show on Netflix called Love and Robots. It's basically an anthology series. They should have done that with this. So it doesn't make sense as a movie. And personally, I don't think I like this movie that much. Like, you can ask me if I like a group of anthology, like an anthology collection, because some of the shorts I liked, like All Gold Canyon and The Gal Who Got Rattled, but some stories were like terrible, like Ballad of Buster Scruggs and Near Algodones. So, I'll give this thing a 7 out of 10 in terms of quality, and on the entertainment scale, I'll give it a solid C, because some of these will entertain you, some of these will bore you depending on what kind of person you are. I liked All Gold Canyon, but it was really slow, so if you want something that's fast-paced, you won't like that one, but you might like Buster Scruggs. So it just depends on your opinion. I think it doesn't please everyone, and it knows it can't please everyone, so it doesn't try to. It tries to just give everyone something they like, but they're gonna have to face something they don't like. So I'll give it a 7 out of 10 because it achieves what it's going for as an anthology. That's all, folks. Thanks for listening to this point. Remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below about this movie. You should go see it. I'd recommend it, but just keep in mind you won't enjoy all of it. So if you have enough time, like two hours, I think, go watch it. Why not? It's on Netflix. It's free. It's of high quality. I will say that. And I might make a ranking of all 6 shorts because why not? It would be a short ranking anyway. So yeah, JM Comics out.
First time. There's a pretty girl.